Officer Cole Steele spent just $1 at a bitterly cold winter auction to save Rex. The last German Shepherd nobody had an eye for. But the instant he brought the scarred dog back to his station, Rex began guiding him toward a hidden trail, the first real clue to a brutal murder tied to a man who had vanished without a trace 2 years ago. Why had no one solved the case? And how could this overlooked K9 hold the key to a crime that haunted Timber Ridge for so long? What unfolds next will make you cry and believe in miracles. Before we dive in, tell me where you're watching from. Drop your country in the comments, and let's see how far this story travels. Snow slanted across the mountain town of Timber Ridge, Colorado, a hard, glittering ice that whispered against window panes and scraped the ridges above. Winter here wasn't just a season, it was a siege. Early that morning, clouds pressed low and iron gray, and each breath turned to frost before vanishing. At the far edge of town, the old cattle auction barn, its red paint-peeling roof patched with tin, throbbed with the muted noise of a small, restless crowd. Inside, the air smelled of sawdust, damp wool, and wet fur. Wooden benches and makeshift heat lamps framed a temporary arena lined with metal cages. A pale banner fluttered near the rafters' county animal dispersal public auction. Dogs of every shape crouched in their pens, some trembling, some barking, hoarsely, eyes darting at strangers passing by. At the very back, a German Shepherd sat with unnerving stillness, his coat black along the spine, fading to warm tan on the legs, was dulled by grime and thin in spots. 5 years old, according to the tag, yet his ribs pressed faintly against his hide, and a half-healed nick marred one ear. He watched the crowd without a sound, amber eyes clear and searching. His tag bore a single name: Rex. Last one for the day, folks called the auctioneer Gus Boone, a man in his late 50s with a broad frame under a sheepskin coat. His voice cracked like a whip across the room. German Shepherd, about 5 years old. No papers, no records, no bid so far. He rapped his clipboard against the rail. Who'll start me at 50? The silence after his words felt heavier than the snow outside. Someone muttered, "Mean dog." Another said, "Damaged goods." Rex didn't move. At the side of the pen stood Officer Cole Steele. 36 shoulders squared, he carried himself like a man who'd spent years in uniform. A former military police officer who left the service to join civilian law enforcement, he had come to Timber Ridge 3 months earlier to escape a career full of noise and political compromise. Now he wore a navy winter sheriff's jacket with a fur-lined collar badge glinting under the weak light. His dark brown hair cropped short, streaked with silver at the temples, and his storm gray eyes scanned the barn, as if cataloging everyone present. He wasn't here on a whim. Whispers of a dog auction serving as a cover for a trafficking ring had reached his desk. If anything illicit lurked behind this public dispersal, he wanted to see it firsthand. Across the room, leaning against a support beam, Lila Mae adjusted a camera lens with red, chapped fingers. Mid-20s hair, like burnished chestnut, curling from under her knit cap. She wore a quilted maroon jacket and jeans tucked into scuffed boots. Lila Mae was a freelance journalist tracking one of Timber Ridge's coldest cases, the mysterious disappearance of Sam Whitman, a bank employee and whistleblower who vanished 2 years earlier after a cash van he managed went missing near Black Creek. Her instincts told her this auction might be another loose thread. Gus Boone tried again. $20.10. His voice echoed against the rafters. "Come on, somebody give this dog a chance." Still no hands went up. Cole's eyes went to Rex. The dog's stillness wasn't frozen fear of a caged animal. It was composure. Even under the barn's flickering bulbs, those amber eyes burned with resolve, vigilance, maybe memory. Cole raised his hand. $1? He said evenly. Gus blinked. What? $1, Cole repeated. I'll take him. A ripple of laughter moved through the crowd. Sheriff must be bored, someone chuckled. But Gus only shrugged. Sold. $1 to the officer. He jotted the note on his clipboard. Hope you know what you're doing. Cole walked to the cage and knelt, unlatching the door with careful fingers. Easy, he murmured. He slipped a simple leash over Rex's head. The dog stood without flinching, muscles shifting under the coat. Up close, Cole noticed faint scars inside Rex's ear-thin lines that looked deliberate, not accidental. As Cole led Rex toward the exit, Lila Mae snapped 2 quick photos. You just made a very interesting purchase, she said, lowering the camera. Cole glanced at her. Press investigative Lila Mae replied, voice low over the barn's murmur. You know what you're holding on that leash, Cole said. A dog no one else wanted, he added. Sometimes Lila Mae murmured, the ones no one wants are the ones no one else can handle. Cole gave a small, non-committal nod and guided Rex through the doors. Outside, the cold hit like a hammer. Snow swirled across the lot, clinging to his dark coat and settling on Rex's fur. Cole opened the rear of his patrol SUV heater running and patted the floor. Rex hesitated, then jumped in, circling once before settling. Lila Mae followed a step behind, camera tucked under her arm. Officer Steele, she said, her voice slightly breathless from the cold. I'm working on a story about missing assets and people in this county. 2 years ago, a bank employee vanished near Black Creek, and his canine partner disappeared too. That dog had a scar in its ear, just like this one. Cole's brows knit. Lots of dogs have scars. Lots of dogs don't vanish with a missing man, she countered. I think you just picked up the only living witness to a crime nobody's been able to prove. The wind shoved between them, scattering dry snow like splinters. Cole shut the SUV door with a thump. If you've got facts, bring them to the station. For now, he's mine. Lila Mae's mouth tilted in a half-smile. You'll see, she said. Good luck. Her camera clicked once more, capturing Cole's face next to Rex's dark eyes, framed by swirling snow. Cole climbed behind the wheel, started the engine, and pulled away. The SUV's tires crunched over ice as Timber Ridge receded in the mirror. Sagging awnings shuttered storefronts, and the auction barn shrinking into the whiteness. In the back seat, Rex sat upright, gaze steady breath fogging the glass. As the road wound upward toward the sheriff's substation, a squat building of timber and stone at the edge of the pine forest, Cole's hands tightened on the wheel. This was supposed to be routine check an auction, rescue a dog, go home. But the weight of Rex's stare pressed on him like a hand on his shoulder. He pulled into the station garage and cut the engine. Come on, boy, he said softly. Rex hopped down, pausing silently on the concrete. Cole grabbed an old blanket from a storage locker and laid it on the floor of an empty kennel, but the dog didn't move to lie down. Instead, Rex stood at the edge, nose lifted, testing the air of his new surroundings. Cole crouched beside him. You're safe now, he murmured. He filled a bowl with water and another with kibble. Rex drank, then sat back on his haunches, tail curled tight. Outside, the wind keened against the siding. Inside, the station clock ticked like a distant heartbeat. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Snow still fell over Timber Ridge, thin flakes drifting in slow spirals as the morning deepened. The sheriff's station sat on the edge of town like an old fortress against the cold. its walls lined with dark timber and gray stone. Inside, the air smelled of coffee-wet wool and wood smoke from a small iron stove. Dim light, muted by the storm, cast a soft hum over everything. Rex lay on the concrete floor of the kennel room, black and tan coat finally brushed clean, but still dull muscles, lean yet tense. He had eaten, drank water, and then lain down in a posture suggesting vigilance rather than rest. Ears rotated toward every creak and clatter. Cole crouched nearby, one hand steadying the dog as he gently parted the fur along his chest. Beneath the dense coat, Cole spotted the faint outline again, a tattooed set of numbers faded and blurred, as if someone had tried to erase them. The numbers formed a small rectangle like an ID code burned into memory. Cole's brows furrowed. He pulled out the handheld microchip scanner and ran it across Rex's shoulder blade. The device buzzed weakly, then flashed a broken line of text, fragmented numbers blinking, before forming words missing witness Black Creek case. He stared at the screen. Black Creek. 2 years ago. Sam Whitman's case file. Cole had read it when he first moved to Timber Ridge, one of many unsolved cases lying dormant in county records. A bank employee 29 years old, gone without a trace. The armored truck he had driven disappeared on a mountain road, and when deputies found it, the cash was missing, the driver gone, and his assigned K-9 partner vanished. Cole exhaled slowly and looked back at Rex. The dog watched him with an almost uncanny stillness, as if he understood what the scanner had revealed. "What did you see out there?" Cole murmured. Footsteps echoed in the hall. Lila Mae appeared in the doorway, cheeks flushed from the cold camera strap over one shoulder notebook under her arm. She hesitated, then stepped inside boots, leaving small puddles of melted snow on the linoleum. Lila Mae was in her mid-20s, a freelance journalist with an instinct for stories that refused to die. Raw determination matched the hard winters of Timber Ridge. "I heard you brought him in," she said, nodding at Rex. "I had to see for myself." Cole Steele's storm-gray eyes narrowed. "And how exactly did you hear that?" "Because I've been following him," Lila Mae said simply, or rather, following the story he was tied to. She crouched a few feet from Rex, careful to keep her hands visible. 2 years ago, my cousin Sam Whitman vanished with a cash van and a dog just like this one. Everyone said the dog was dead or stolen, but I saw its ear yesterday at the auction. That scar, identical." Cole studied her long and hard. "And your cousin's last message, if anything happened, Rex would know where to go." Her fingers tightened on the notebook. "I've been chasing leads ever since. The bank records were sealed. The sheriff at the time retired. Everyone wanted it buried." She nodded at Rex. "But if this dog remembers he's the only living witness left." Rex's ears flicked at her voice. He didn't growl or retreat. Instead, he shifted closer to Cole's leg, marking his choice. Cole set the scanner aside, screen still glowing with missing witness. "Even if he's the same dog," Cole said quietly, "memories fade. Dogs can't testify, not in words." "But in actions in places," Lila Mae replied. "He might lead you to evidence to where Sam was taken, to who did it. He survived out there for 2 years. That wasn't by accident." Outside the window, a snowplow rumbled, shaking the glass. Lila Mae took a breath, gathering herself. "Look," she said, voice lower. "I'm not here to blow this wide open. I just want to help find out what happened. If Rex leads you somewhere, let me come. Let me record it." Quietly, Cole folded his arms, leaning back against the desk. "Why do you care so much beyond family?" he asked. She hesitated, then spoke softly. "Because Sam didn't just vanish. He called me the night before, said he'd uncovered something at the bank, evidence of embezzlement, maybe worse. He was scared. And he said if anything happened, Rex would know. That's the last I heard from him." Cole glanced at Rex, who had shifted to sit upright, ear-alert eyes fixed on the door, as though waiting for a signal. The station was quiet, except for a distant ringing phone and the hiss of the heater. Snow hissed against the windows, turning the world outside into a blank screen. Finally, Cole said, "If you're going to be involved, you follow my rules. No leaks, no surprise articles, and you give me every lead you've got. I'll do the same." Lila Mae nodded relief flickering across her face. "Deal. I've been quiet for 2 years. I can handle quiet." She crouched a little closer to Rex, holding out a hand. "Hey, boy," she whispered. "Do you remember Sam Rex's nostrils flared, catching her scent?" He didn't move away. Tail tapped once against the floor, a low sound like a heartbeat. Cole watched them both, feeling the weight of what he'd stumbled into. He had expected a simple investigation into an illegal auction. Instead, he now held the only living key to a cold case with teeth. "We should start looking soon," Lila Mae said, brushing snow from her sleeves. "Snow like this covers everything. If something's out there, it won't stay visible forever." Cole nodded slowly, still crouched beside the dog. "We'll start with him," he said. Rex turned his head, eyes glinting amber in the dim light, as if he understood. He pressed his nose to the glass, staring out at the snow-blurred world beyond, then looked back at Cole. Tail curling neatly to his side. Silent, but poised like a compass, waiting to be set. The snow had slowed to a drifting haze when Cole Steele decided it was time to take Rex beyond the station. Morning light was flat and cold, painting Timber Ridge in muted grays. He clipped a longer lead onto Rex's collar, slipped on his gloves, and opened the side door of the substation. The air outside smelled of pine and frozen earth. His breath rose in thick clouds as he led the German Shepherd down the sloping road toward the outskirts of town, where asphalt bled into dirt and then forest paths. Rex moved with a strange focus. He wasn't sniffing like a normal dog nose, low and zigzagging. Instead, he tugged once, twice, then held a steady line north toward the foothills. Cole let him lead, but kept his senses sharp. In the distance, the outlines of Black Creek Gorge appeared through the trees, a cleft of dark stone and pine where snow gathered like salt in a wound. This was where Sam Whitman's armored truck had been found, stripped and abandoned. Cole hadn't planned to go there today, but Rex clearly had other plans. They crossed a wooden footbridge, slick with ice. Cole's boots scraped against frost as he tried to keep balance. The farther they went, the quieter it became. No cars, no voices, only the muted rush of a hidden stream under ice. Rex's ears pricked, tail, stiff muscles coiled. He began circling a patch of snow near a fallen log, sniffing intensely, then digging with sudden ferocity. Snow flew back in sharp sprays, Rex's claws raking at the frozen earth beneath. "Easy, Cole Steele," said, kneeling, but Rex was locked in, pawing faster. His breathing grew harsh as he tossed clumps of dirt and frozen leaves aside. After a tense moment, something glinted in the slush. Cole reached in and pulled out a small, cracked wristwatch, its leather strap stiff and torn from the cold. One side was smeared with something dark, old blood frozen into the creases. Cole's breath hitched. He turned the watch carefully. It matched the description in Sam Whitman's missing person file, a family heirloom with gold initials on the back. Beneath the watch, half buried in the soil, a strip of blue cloth clung to a thorn root. Cole tugged it free. A piece of shirt fabric still faintly stained. He stood scanning the trees. This area had been combed by deputies 2 years ago, yet the winter thaw and Rex's nose had uncovered what men had missed. Cole slipped the evidence into a sealed bag from his coat pocket, the weight pressing against his palm like a secret finally surfaced. A soft click made him turn his head. Lila Mae stood about 20 feet away, camera raised, bundled in her maroon jacket knit scarf, pulled up over her mouth. Snow dusted her hair. Her eyes shone behind the lens. She lowered the camera slowly, careful not to spook Rex. "I figured you'd come out here," she said, voice muffled by the scarf. "He's leading you, isn't he?" Cole exhaled through his nose, but didn't answer immediately. "You followed me." "You didn't exactly invite me," she said, stepping closer. "But I wasn't about to let you go to Black Creek alone with that dog." She crouched to photograph the watch and fabric as Cole held them up. "That's Sam," she said softly. "He wore it every day." Rex circled them once, then sat ears scanning the woods. "Take your shots and then back up," Cole said. "If this gets out, it won't," Lila Mae added. "I know what's at stake." She took another photo, adjusted the angle, and clicked again. Movement flickered at the tree line. Her eyes narrowed. A man stood half-hidden behind a spruce, a cigarette ember glowing near his face. He was tall, in a padded work jacket, stained at the cuffs, faded ball cap pulled low. Even from a distance, she recognized him, Roy Maddox, mid-40s, once a security guard for Black Creek Bank, before disappearing quietly after Sam's vanishing. Rumor said he drifted into odd jobs and private trucking, but kept ties to old bank managers. His build was heavy but soft around the middle, the face of a man who had seen both sides of the law weathered lines and an old scar above his brow. Snow collected on his shoulders as he watched them without expression, one hand in his jacket pocket. Lila Mae's stomach tightened. She remembered his name from an old roster he'd been on duty the day Sam disappeared. She raised her camera, pretending to adjust focus, and snapped a quick frame of him at the tree line. The click made Roy turn sharply. Then he melted back into the trees, the cigarette ember vanishing like a firefly. Cole noticed her tension. "What is it?" "Someone watching," she murmured. "Former bank security." "He's on my suspect list," Cole said, scanning the woods, seeing nothing. "We're leaving." He clipped Rex's leash back on evidence bag, secured in his coat. Lila Mae fell in behind, camera hugged to her chest. They crossed the footbridge again, wind rising at their backs. Rex stayed alert, glancing over his shoulder, ears swiveling. By the time they reached the edge of town, snow had thickened, erasing their tracks. Cole guided them to his SUV parked near the old ranger station. He opened the back for Rex, who jumped in without a sound. Lila Mae climbed into the passenger seat, still scanning the tree line. "Roy Maddox," she said again. "He's not just drifting. He's connected to the bank, to Sam, to all of it." Cole started the engine. "We'll keep him on our radar, but right now we've got evidence," he said. Lila Mae watched as Rex curled on the back seat, head on his paws, eyes still alert. "He led you right to it," she whispered. "Yeah," Cole said, staring through the windshield at blowing snow. "And I think he's just getting started." He pulled onto the road, SUV tires crunching over ice. Behind them, the gorge disappeared into the storm. Ahead, Timber Ridge glowed faintly under clouded daylight. Inside the heater blew warm air, but tension remained thick. They all knew this was only the beginning. The next afternoon broke in pale, muted sunlight, the kind that never truly melted snow, only made it glitter like broken glass. Timber Ridge lay under a quiet hush after the storm, and the woods beyond seemed to hold their breath. Cole Steele parked his SUV near an abandoned trailhead once used by loggers decades earlier. He clipped Rex's lead to a longer line and motioned for Lila Mae to zip her coat. Rex moved ahead with purpose. His gait had changed since the auction day, still lean, still cautious, but now deliberate. A sense of returning to a place his body remembered, even if his mind could not name it. Cole Steele kept pace boots sinking in the packed snow, while Lila Mae followed a few steps behind camera, tucked inside her jacket to prevent fogging. She had swapped her city gear for heavier boots and wool-lined gloves, adapting to the mountain environment. The trail was old half-buried, winding uphill through pine and aspen. As they climbed, the air grew sharper, the resin and frozen soil mixing in their lungs. Rex stopped suddenly, nose twitching, then turned sharply off the path. He led them down a shallow slope to a flat area concealed by thickets and snowdrifts. In the middle stood a sagging structure, a reinforced concrete mound half buried under earth and tree roots. A rusted steel door leaned against the side hinges, blown long ago. "What is this place?" Lila Mae asked, brushing snow from a signpost whose letters had faded long ago. "Old storage bunker," Cole said. "Railroad companies used these to hold fuel or supplies when the line still ran." He tested the ground before stepping closer. Rex strained against the lead, pawing at the snow-covered entry. Inside, darkness swallowed the room, the air stale with oil and rut. Cole flicked his flashlight beam across the walls. Coils of discarded rope lay stiff with frost in a corner. Empty oil drums were stacked against the far wall, one marked with faded hazard symbols. Leaning in the shadows was a large metal sign reading Black Creek Bank. Armored Services bolts sheared clean paint, chipped. But legible. Lila Mae drew in a breath. "That's from Sam's truck route," she whispered, beginning to take photos methodically from one corner to the next. No one had touched this in years. Cole crouched by the rope, running a gloved finger along the fibers. The strands were scuffed, darkened, as if once soaked and dried. Binding, he murmured, "Somebody tied someone up here." Rex sniffed the barrels, then stiffened suddenly, ears flat, tail dropping low. He backed away from a shadowed corner, hackles rising. Cole swung his flashlight. Outside, snow crunched under tires. A shape loomed at the tree line, a truck old and boxy, faded green paint streaked with salt. Its engine coughed once, then went silent. The cab was hidden behind a drift. Rex whined low, then barked sharply, lunging toward the bunker entrance. Cole caught the leash just in time. The dog twisted frantic eyes wide. Lila Mae snapped a quick photo of the truck through the doorway. "That's the same make Sam drove," she said. "Same color, too." Cole peered through the doorway, heart hammering. The truck's windows fogged, no driver visible. After a long minute, the engine coughed, then the vehicle backed slowly down the track until the trees swallowed it. Rex trembled, claws scrabbling against the concrete floor. Cole knelt, pressing a hand to his flank. "Easy, boy," he murmured. "You're safe." The dog's breathing slowed gradually, though his gaze stayed locked on the door. Lila Mae lowered her camera hands, shaking. "What just happened? Somebody wanted to see who came back here." Cole said grimly, pulling a fresh evidence bag from his coat and sealing small samples rope fibers, a fleck of paint from the bank sign, a photograph of barrel serial numbers. "We're sending all this to the state lab," he said. Lila Mae glanced at him. "Do you think they knew we'd be here?" Cole zipped the bag shut. "If Roy Maddox or whoever he works for has been watching us since the gorge, then yes. But now we've got proof this place exists." They led Rex out into the open air, the dog's paws leaving sharp prints in the snow. Wind picked up, stirring the treetops. Lila Mae touched Rex's head gently as he passed her. For the first time, he didn't flinch. Ears tilted toward her hand. He leaned briefly into the touch. "Good boy," she whispered. Cole noticed the shift but said nothing. Trust was building slowly like snow layering on a roof beam. He glanced back at the bunker one last time, then guided them down the path toward the SUV. On the drive back, Lila Mae scrolled through her photos, tagging the best shots of the rope and bank sign. "This is the first real link to Sam's route," she said. The first thing no one could deny. Cole kept his eyes on the road, one hand on the wheel, the other resting lightly on the evidence bag. Rex lay on the back seat, blanket eyes half closed, but ears still flicking at every sound. "Once the lab gets this," Cole said, "we'll know if the blood on that rope matches Sam or someone else." Lila Mae lowered her phone, looking out at the endless pines. "And the truck. If it's connected, we just announced we're on the trail. We'll be careful," Cole Steele said, though he knew this was necessary. By the time they reached the edge of Timber Ridge, the sun was sliding low, casting a copper sheen over the snow. Lila Mae turned to Rex in the back seat and held out her hand. He sniffed her fingers, then rested his muzzle lightly against her palm. "You're remembering, aren't you?" she murmured. Rex blinked slowly, finally settling into a calm breathing, deep and steady. For the first time since the auction, he curled up on the blanket and closed his eyes, not in exhausted collapse, but in a guarded rest. Cole caught the moment in the rearview mirror. "Looks like we're all making progress," he said quietly. Back at the station, he unloaded the evidence and locked it in a secure cabinet. The smell of wood smoke and coffee wrapped around them as the door shut. Outside, snow drifted past the window in slow, lazy spirals, but inside something had shifted. The case was no longer a rumor, and Rex was no longer just a rescue dog. By the time snowplows cleared the main road in Timber Ridge, the state lab report had already landed on Cole Steele's desk. He sat at the scarred oak table in the back office of the sheriff's station coffee, cooling beside his hand faint hiss of the heater behind him. Lila Mae perched on the edge of another chair camera bag at her feet, eyes flicking between the dog lying at their boots and the envelope with the state seal. Rex dozed lightly, but kept his ears turned to every sound, as if he knew the envelope's contents would change everything. Cole pulled out the paper blood sample from the gorge and fabric strip, and read quietly. Match confirmed, Sam Whitman. Lila Mae's hands tightened on her knees. She had prepared herself for the confirmation, but the words still pressed the air from her lungs. She blinked hard, staring at the floor. "At least now we know," she murmured. Outside, the storm had passed, leaving the mountain town under a brittle blue sky. Cold was sharper, but the light revealed rather than concealed. Cole folded the paper, sliding it back into the envelope. "We've got a victim. Now we need a perpetrator." Lila Mae leaned forward. "I've been cross-referencing everything we've found," she said. "There's a name that keeps coming up. Jack Crow. He owns Crow Logistics Trucking and Storage. He handled several contracts for Black Creek Bank around the time Sam disappeared. He's also on the list of donors for that dog auction." Cole had heard the name in passing, but never tied it to Black Creek. Jack Crow was in his early 50s, a local businessman whose reputation was a mix of philanthropy and whispers. Former trucker turned entrepreneur, he wore tailored coats over flannel and ran his business from a sprawling warehouse near the freight yard. "You've got evidence?" Cole asked. "Enough to ask questions," Lila Mae replied. She pulled a few photographs from her bag. Taken last month at the county fairgrounds Crow at the dog auction with a handler from Denver. They're loading cages into his truck. Cole studied the image. Crow was tall, heavy-set, with a narrow face. Silver-streaked hair slicked back under a black Stetson. A long wool coat hung from his shoulders. Gloved hands gestured at something outside the frame. He looked like someone comfortable with deals and silences. Rex rose suddenly, pawing at Lila Mae's bag nose, pressing against the photo. His ears tilted forward, nostrils flaring. He gave a low, almost questioning whine. Lila Mae glanced down. "He recognizes him, doesn't he?" she whispered. Rex sniffed again, then huffed tail-low eyes on Cole. That afternoon, Cole drove to Crow Logistics under the pretense of checking a shipment route. The warehouse sat near the old railway spur yard, filled with snow-dusted trailers and forklifts. The building was a rectangle of corrugated steel with tinted windows, Crow Logistics sign bolted above the doors. Trucks idled in the lot, diesel fumes mixing with crisp mountain air. Lila Mae came along as press, wearing a plain parka and jeans tucked into boots, camera concealed. Rex stayed in the SUV, but watched through the window as Cole entered the office. The receptionist, a wiry man in his 40s named Tom Reed, wore a fleece vest over a collared shirt. He introduced himself quickly, tone deferential, but wary. Cole noticed a faint tattoo of a crow on the man's wrist. "Mr. Crow's out on the floor," Tom said. "You can wait here." Moments later, Jack Crow appeared from a side hallway. In person, he was taller than Cole expected, deep-chested gait, hinting at old injuries hidden under his fine coat. Face ruddy from the cold eyes, pale green that didn't blink enough. He extended a gloved hand. "Officer Steele, I hear you're making the rounds." "What can I do for you?" "Routine checks," Cole said easily. "New in town, learning the supply routes, making sure everyone's winter ready." Crow smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. He glanced at Lila Mae. "And you are freelance reporter," Lila Mae said, covering small-town infrastructure. She offered a neutral smile. Notebook closed. Jack Crow tilted his head slightly. "We like good press." His coat shifted as he adjusted his gloves. As he spoke, a faint scent drifted to Cole Steele machine oil leather and something like the bunker-old fuel mixed with metal. Outside, Rex pressed his nose to the SUV window. Even through the glass, his hackles rose. He paced once, then fixed his gaze on Crow's figure. Inside, Cole asked a few harmless questions about snow chains, fuel storage, and emergency plans. Crow answered smoothly, gesturing toward the warehouse floor, where pallets were stacked high. But his eyes flicked once toward Tom Reed, and Tom left the room quietly, as if a cue had been given. Lila Mae noticed. She turned a page in her notebook and wrote a single word: surveillance. She slid it across to Cole, as if it were a casual doodle. Crow noticed, but said nothing. "If there's nothing else," he said finally, "I've got a schedule to keep." Cole shook his hand again, feeling the man's grip firm, practiced, but slightly damp with sweat despite the cold. "We'll be in touch," Cole said. They left the office and crossed the icy parking lot to the SUV. Rex's tail wagged once at the sight of Cole, then went still. Lila Mae climbed in beside him. "He knows something," she said. "And he's got people watching us," Tom Reed Cole muttered. "He went off to make a call, or to warn somebody," Lila Mae added. They drove back toward the station tires, crunching over salt and ice. Lila Mae glanced in the rearview mirror. "There's a black pickup 2 cars behind us." "Been there since we left the warehouse." Cole checked discreetly. A dark pickup with tinted windows kept its distance on the mountain road. "Don't look again," he said. "We'll change routes." He turned down a side street and wound through residential blocks until the truck vanished. Back at the station, Lila Mae unrolled her evidence maps on the table. She traced the routes Crow's trucks took from the dog auction to the warehouses, highlighting overlap with Black Creek delivery paths. "He's been using the auctions as cover," she said. "Moving dogs, moving something else." Rex lay under the table, head resting on his paws, but eyes open. Lila Mae reached down and stroked his head. This time he leaned into her touch, fully, eyes softening. The first time he sought contact rather than endured it. "Good boy," she murmured. Cole watched and felt a flicker of relief. Rex had begun to eat regularly, sleep through the night, respond to Lila Mae's voice. The walls were coming down one brick at a time. He picked up the phone to call the state lab about additional testing on the fibers from the bunker. Lila Mae glanced at him. "Do you think Crow will make a move? I think he already has," Cole said. "We just haven't caught him yet." Outside the window, the sun slid behind the mountains, casting the town into a bruised purple twilight. Snow melt dripped from the eaves, ticking against the sill. Rex lifted his head and gave a low rumble, sensing something beyond the walls. Cole crouched, hand on the dog's shoulder. "We'll be ready," he said quietly. The following morning dawned pale orange, cutting through low clouds over Timber Ridge. The storm had broken, leaving a crust of snow on every rooftop and glittering frost on the highway rails. Inside the sheriff's station, Cole Steele spread maps and surveillance photos across the long table. Lila Mae sat opposite laptop open screen, glowing faintly in the dim room. Rex lay between them, head on his paws, but eyes alert. Cole's phone vibrated with a message from a regional FBI liaison. He had reached out quietly the night before, sending a summary of evidence, blood samples, bunker photos, the bank sign, and the suspect connections to Jack Crow's logistics routes. Now he had a tentative agreement for joint action. "They're interested," Cole said. "We need to give them more, Lila," Mae said, tucking a strand of hair into her scarf. "We're about to." She pulled up a satellite image of Western County farmland, a patchwork of snowbound fields and dark pine copses. Crow owned a property out here, technically under a shell company, but she traced the deed back to his holding group. An old dairy farm abandoned 20 years ago. Rex's ears flicked at the word farm. He rose tail low, pawing at the window, as if sensing the change. Cole studied the coordinates. "We'll take him out there. See what he smells." By noon, they were on the road, SUV tires biting into packed snow. Rex sat upright in the back seat, nose pressed to the glass breath, fogging the window. Lila Mae kept her camera in her lap, hands free, eyes scanning the endless pine sliding by. She had swapped her maroon jacket for a heavier parka and a knitted hat covering her hair. The abandoned farm lay beyond a series of back roads, its entrance half hidden by overgrown hedges and a sagging gate. A weather-beaten sign swung from one chain, Hollow Pines Dairy. The buildings beyond loomed like sagging silhouettes against the pale sky barns, with collapsed roofs, silos leaning like drunken sentries. Rex jumped down from the SUV, pausing as his paws sank into deep snow. He sniffed the air, then moved with purpose toward a long, low structure at the edge of the property. Cole Steele and Lila Mae followed, boots crunching in the frost. "This place gives me the creeps," Lila Mae muttered. They reached a locked barn door. Cole found the padlock rusted through and pried it open with a crowbar from the SUV. Inside, dust motes floated in weak beams of sunlight slicing through broken panels. Old hay lay in brittle heaps. The smell of oil, animal musk, and chemicals lingered. Rex weaved through the shadows, alert and deliberate. He stopped at a stack of wooden crates, sniffed, then pawed one until it shifted. Cole lifted the lid. Inside were bundles of shredded documents, broken security seals from Black Creek Bank, and several metal lockboxes scorched as though someone had tried to destroy them. Lila Mae crouched, camera clicking. "He's been hiding it here," she whispered. Everything Sam tried to expose. In the far corner stood a tall metal cabinet. Cole tugged it open. Inside hung uniform security jackets with the Black Creek Bank logo name patches removed. A dark stain marred the edge of one sleeve. Cole sealed a swab sample in a bag. "This goes to the lab," he said. Rex swung his head toward the far door muscles tense. He gave a low bark, then turned back, eyes sharp. Cole knelt beside him. "Signal check," he murmured, raising his left hand in a tight fist, then flicking 2 fingers outward. Rex obeyed instantly, circling back to heel. Cole tried another silent command, flat palm to the ground. Rex crouched low, belly to the hay, eyes locked on the doorway. Lila Mae raised her eyebrows. "You've been retraining him?" "Started last night," Cole said. "He still remembers the hand signals." He gave another command. Rex slunk forward like a shadow, checking the threshold silently. "We'll need that when the time comes." They moved deeper into the barn, finding a trap door near the center, covered by a sheet of plywood. Cole pried it up, revealing a narrow set of steps descending into a storage pit. The air below was colder heavy with damp concrete and diesel. More crates lined the walls. Some bore faded shipping labels matching Crow's trucking routes. Lila Mae crouched at the edge, camera flashing once, then again. "We've got enough here to blow the case open," she said. Cole nodded but kept his voice low. "We'll let the FBI handle the raid. We're only here to verify and extract evidence. Can't risk tipping Crow off before they're ready." Rex's tail flicked once, then stilled. He sniffed the edge of a crate, giving a quiet growl. Cole placed a calming hand on his flank. "We're leaving now." They recovered. The trapdoor slipped out of the barn and made their way back to the SUV. The sun had sunk lower, casting long fingers of orange across the snow. Lila Mae wrapped her arms around herself against the cold. "If Crow finds out we've been here, he already knows we're on him," Cole said. "We just can't prove how much he knows." Back at the SUV, Rex hesitated before climbing in. He stood in the snow nostrils, flaring eyes fixed on the distant tree line, where a faint engine sound carried across the fields. "Truck," Cole murmured. He hustled Lila Mae inside and started the engine. They drove out slowly, careful not to raise suspicion. Halfway down the county road, Cole glanced in the mirror. No vehicles behind them yet. Lila Mae exhaled, leaning back, scrolling through her photos, crates, lockboxes, uniforms, trapdoor. She paused on one shot. Rex crouched, low, eyes lit by the flashlight's beam, like a soldier remembering an old command. In the back seat, he curled onto the blanket. For the first time since leaving the station that morning, he allowed Lila Mae to stroke his neck without tensing. He even closed his eyes for a moment under her touch. "We're getting closer," she said softly. "Closer means risk," Cole replied. "But it also means we're almost ready." As they neared Timber Ridge, dusk settled in, turning the snow pale blue under the last rays of sun. The town's lights flickered on like a necklace of tiny stars. Cole parked behind the station and unloaded the evidence under cover of twilight. Inside, he called the FBI liaison, giving them the coordinates of the farm and the items found. The voice on the other end, Mark Hale, seasoned agent in his mid-40s, with a reputation for taking down smuggling rings, promised a rapid response. Calm but commanding, Cole pictured a man in a dark overcoat, lined face, from years of fieldwork already planning the raid. He hung up, turned to Lila Mae, and said simply, "It's moving." She looked at Rex, who had settled near the heater. "So is he," she said. Rex lifted his head at the sound of his name, eyes steady and waiting. He had come from a cage and a shadowed past, but now his muscles held readiness, and his gaze looked past them toward whatever lay ahead. Snow fell thick as wool over Timber Ridge that night, swallowing sound and turning headlights into soft halos. Cole Steele's SUV rolled to a stop at the edge of Hollow Pines Dairy. The abandoned farm lay cordoned off in darkness. Beyond the sagging barns and skeletal silos, black pines pressed against the horizon tips, laced with frost. Inside the vehicle, Rex stood poised on the back seat, muscles tight beneath his black and tan coat nostrils, flaring at scents streaming through the cracked window. Lila Mae sat beside Cole. Gloved hands clutching her camera bag, breath fogging the glass. They had spent the day coordinating with Mark Hale of the FBI. Hale, a seasoned investigator in his mid-40s, with a trim build and steel gray hair cut close, had flown in from Denver that afternoon, dark wool coat over a navy suit. Years tracking smuggling rings had left his voice steady, but clipped, face-lined, but alert. He crouched near the edge of the SUV's headlights, issuing hand signals to two agents in dark tactical jackets. One, Lisa Kane, a Latina woman in her early 30s, with sharp eyes behind tactical goggles, moved into position along the east side of the barn, carrying a suppressed rifle. Cole checked his gear shoulder holster under his heavy patrol jacket, flashlight taped to his sidearm, cuffs ready. Lila Mae adjusted her knit cap lower. "I still can't believe we're here," she whispered. "Crow's been hiding this for years." Rex let out a low, controlled growl. Cole glanced back. "We're moving," he said softly. "Stay close." They left the SUV and entered the snow-smothered yard, boots crunching softly. Hale raised a gloved fist, signaling hold. The agents fanned out flashlights off. The barn loomed ahead like a shipwreck of timber and corrugated steel. Rex pulled at the lead nose low, moving toward the north end, where a drift had piled against the foundation. Cole unclipped the leash. "Find it," he murmured, giving a hand signal flat palm, then a forward sweep. Rex trotted ahead, silent, as a shadow scanning the ground. He stopped at a patch near a collapsed fence, sniffed, and began pawing at the snow with quick, precise strokes. Lila Mae crouched to photograph. "He's onto something," she whispered. Rex's claws hit something metallic. He stepped back, tail stiff, as Cole dropped to his knees and cleared the snow. A steel box army green rusted at the corners emerged from the frozen soil. Cole pried it free and set it on the snow. Hale joined him, shining a small flashlight as Cole flipped the latch. Inside lay bank documents sealed in plastic sleeves, a compact pistol wrapped in oilcloth, and a stack of grainy photographs of Jack Crow with Sam Whitman at Black Creek Bank, time-stamped weeks before Sam's disappearance. Lila Mae's hand flew to her mouth. "That's him," she whispered. "That's proof." Cole sealed the box back up and handed it to Hale. "Get this logged now." From the shadows, movement erupted. A tall man broke from the side of the barn. Jack Crow himself, coat flaring behind him, pistol glinting in one hand. Even in the weak light, his pale green eyes flashed desperation. He ran for a parked pickup near the tree line, boots punching into the snow. Crow Cole shouted, drawing his sidearm. "Stop!" Hale barked orders, agents fanning out. But Crow veered into darkness, aiming to escape through a gap in the fence. Rex sprang forward before Cole could stop him. The German Shepherd streaked across the snow, a blur of muscle and instinct intercepting Crow just as he reached the truck. He lunged, teeth snapping on the man's coat sleeve, dragging him sideways. Crow stumbled, firing a wild shot that cracked into the night air, then fell hard onto his back. Rex growled low, pinning him until Cole closed the distance, cuffing him with practiced speed. Crow spat curses, twisting under the cuffs. "You don't know what you're doing," he shouted. Cole only tightened his grip. "We know enough," he said. Hale took the box from the snow, nodding at Cole. "We've got him." Meanwhile, Lila Mae had circled the side of the barn to photograph the truck walking straight into danger. Two of Crow's men emerged from the shadows. One tall and gaunt, wearing a grease-stained parka, the other stocky with a shaved head and a faded tattoo curling up his neck. The tall one grabbed Lila Mae's arm. "Camera," he hissed. "Give it." She twisted away, shouting. Rex's head snapped up, ears pricking. Cole saw the struggle, but before he could reach her, Rex launched himself again, slamming into the taller man's legs, teeth bared, snarling. Cole ducked as the man collapsed, his grip slipping away. The stockier one swung a metal pipe, but Rex spun around and let out a booming bark that made the attacker stumble back. Mark Hale's agents stormed in, weapons drawn, and disarmed both men in a flash. Lila Mae scrambled toward Cole, clutching her camera like it was her last breath. Her chest heaved. "He saved me," she whispered. Cole crouched down, giving Rex a strong pat. "Good boy," he said, voice low. Rex's tail gave a single wag before he went still again, eyes sharp, watching for danger. Mark scanned the documents under his flashlight pulled from the steel box. "These records show wire transfers and illegal shipments," he said, holding up a set of papers. "And here coordinates. This marks a burial site just outside Black Creek." Lila Mae's breath caught. "Sam," she murmured. Cole stood tall, snow sweeping across his face, cuffs biting into Jack Crow's wrists as the man glared up. "It's over," Cole said firmly. Crow's mouth twisted into a bitter grin. "You think this ends with me?" But his voice was eaten by the wind as agents marched him toward the waiting SUV headlights blazing in the whiteout. Rex sat beside Cole, chest heaving, but eyes calm, his coat flecked with snow. Lila knelt next to him, fingertips brushing his ears, and for the first time he didn't just tolerate her touch, he leaned into it. His eyes softened. Mark Hale shut the steel box and gave a nod. "We'll get this processed immediately. With this, the mystery of Sam Whitman ends. We'll recover the remains and close the case for good." Snow kept falling, draping the old farm in silence. Flashlights and headlights stretched shadows across the yard, but for Cole, Lila, and Rex, the darkness no longer held power. They had found the truth. Winter released Timber Ridge slow, like a clenched fist, relaxing one finger at a time. The courthouse on Main Street gleamed under a thin morning sun, its steps crowded with reporters and townsfolk. Inside, the long-awaited trial of Jack Crow and his men had begun. The room buzzed with a mix of relief and simmering anger, years of secrets finally dragged into the light. Cole Steele sat at the witness stand, his sheriff's dress uniform crisp gold badge polished to a shine. His storm-gray eyes moved between the attorneys and the jury. He spoke of the hidden bunker, the auction, the gravesite, every detail locked in memory. Across the room, Jack Crow sat in a sharp, dark suit, his hands clenched in his lap, eyes cold and pale. Beside him sat his lawyer, Carl Drake, a once respected corporate attorney, now just trying to contain the damage. Carl looked worn-out, glasses low on his nose. Mark Hale was present too, flanked by 2 federal agents. Lila Mae sat in the front row, her notepad balanced on her knees documenting every word. Rex lay quietly at Cole's feet, wearing a new harness with a stitched badge, Honorary K9 Timber Ridge Sheriff's Office. He waited still and alert, like he knew the weight of the moment. When the verdict came, the room held its breath. Jack Crow, guilty on all counts: obstruction, conspiracy, animal trafficking. His 2 enforcers, Wade and Levi, were convicted as well. The empire fell apart, seized and gone. Outside, camera flashes lit the courthouse steps. Lila walked beside Cole, her maroon coat now replaced with a navy pea coat, hair pulled back. "You did it," she said gently. "We did it," Cole replied. Rex trotted between them, tail flicking once at the sound of their voices. Later that afternoon at the sheriff's office, a small ceremony took place. Sheriff Bo Thorne, broad and weathered from mountain years, pinned a silver commendation to Cole's chest. "For closing one of our longest open cases, and for bravery under threat," he said. "Timber Ridge thanks you." The applause was modest but genuine. Lila snapped a photo as Rex looked up at Cole, ears perked. Then Sheriff Thorne crouched slightly and held out a second medal on a blue ribbon. "And for this one," he said, "our first honorary K9. Rex, you've earned it, Rex." He gently placed the ribbon around the shepherd's neck. Rex blinked once, then wagged his tail, a quiet acceptance. Cole knelt beside him, hand resting on his side. "Partner," he said. Rex leaned against him, steady and calm. That evening, Lila uploaded her article. The headline read, "Auction of Shadows: How a Forgotten K9 Unmasked a Smuggling Empire." She chronicled everything from that dusty auction lot to the courtroom. How dog auctions were used to move contraband. How Rex, a nearly discarded K9, had cracked a case the town thought would never be solved. The story exploded overnight. From Denver to D.C., it spread like wildfire. Donations flooded into the Timber Ridge K9 Rescue Fund, an organization Lila and Cole had founded to help retired or abandoned police dogs. Volunteers poured in. Time, money, land. An old building near the freight yard was set to become a training and recovery center for K9s. Rex became the face of it all. The photo of him at the medal ceremony appeared on posters everywhere next to the words, "Second chances have 4 legs." As spring crept in, Cole, Lila and Rex climbed the snowy hill overlooking Timber Ridge, where Sam Whitman had finally come home. The valley stretched out below, washed in the soft glow of dawn, the town lights fading as sunlight slowly took hold. Lila Mae wore a gray parka camera slung at her hip. Not a shield anymore, but a witness to everything they'd uncovered. Cole Steele stood beside her, hands buried in his coat pockets, their breath curling into the crisp morning air like smoke. Rex sat silently between them, the medal on his collar catching the pale light. They didn't speak at first, just let the breeze move around them, as if the wind itself remembered where this all began. A man lost in grief, a dog no one wanted, and a crime long buried in silence. But now it ended with truth, with justice, and maybe something new beginning. Lila broke the quiet. "You ever think about how close we came to missing him at that auction?" "Every single day," Cole replied, his voice low. $1 changed everything. Rex nudged Cole's hand, and a soft smile tugged at his lips. One dog changed everything he corrected. Lila knelt gently, wrapping an arm around Rex's neck. The shepherd didn't stiffen. He leaned in, eyes fluttering halfway shut in trust. Below them, Timber Ridge Valley shimmered in whites and greens where melting snow traced silver paths through the creeks. It no longer felt haunted. It felt like hope. They stayed like that as the sun cleared the ridge light spilling over rooftops and the half-built rescue center on the edge of town. Rex's ears twitched, catching something only he could sense. "Ready for your next chapter?" Lila whispered into his fur. Rex's tail wagged, slow, steady, certain. Cole reached down, resting a firm hand on his partner's head. "We all are," he said quietly. In that moment, it felt like the heavy weight of 2 long years had finally slipped off Timber Ridge's shoulders. The case was over, but what had formed between the three of them, that was just beginning. Sometimes the biggest miracles don't arrive with fireworks. Sometimes they show up quiet, like second chances. Cole paid $1 and found a partner who brought the truth into daylight. Lila wrote one story and gave voice to those the world had forgotten. And Rex, once discarded, became a hero. That's how God moves quietly, gently, turning shattered paths into bridges, using the least expected to heal wounds long left untouched. In our everyday lives, we walk past those $1 moments, the overlooked chances to forgive, to rescue, to see with grace instead of fear. But when we lead with courage and kindness, even the smallest step can crack open a door to something bigger. If this story touched your heart, pass it along to someone who could use a little hope. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe to the channel to help keep these stories alive. And if you believe in second chances, in quiet miracles, and in God's power to guide us through the darkness, write Amen in the comments so we can pray together for every person watching. May God bless you and your loved ones always.